Hey folks, welcome back, or of course, welcome to Lone Pine Tarot if this is your first visit here. Either way, thank you so much for choosing to join me for our pick a card reading today. Now, today's question to Spirit that we're asking is, what cosmic shift is unfolding for you now? So without further ado, let us choose our pile leaders to pick our piles with. So, calling on Spirit for the highest, best good of our community, everyone watching, please guide me right now to the right cards for them to choose their messages with. Thank you. Okay, well this one is quite prominent, so I'm going to take this for pile number 1. And let's see, pile number 2 here. And which should we pick for pile 3? I'm actually feeling this one right here. So let's pluck that one out of the pile. And without further ado, let us unveil the cards together. So for pile number 1 over here on the left, your pile leader today is... Oh, you know, I've never actually had this one pop up before with this deck. Rescue. Or number 53 if you want to choose with a number. Rescue. That's for pile 1, as we said. For pile number 2 here in the middle, your pile leader is, Perseverance, or number 39, if you would like to pick by the number with that card. And last but not least, for our wonderful pile 3 over here on the right, we have Invention with number 17. Very beautiful set of cards and pile leaders here. So just quick refresher, pile 1 on the left, your Rescue. Pile 2 in the middle, you are Perseverance. And pile 3 on the right, you are Invention. But as I always say, you're 100% welcome to pause on this part of the reading if you need more time to decide what pile you would like read for you. If you're new to pick a card readings and you're like, Lone Pine, help me choose a method. How do I pick one of these? I always say just close your eyes and ask your spirit guides, tell me which word out of these 3 I should choose. So Rescue, Perseverance, Invention. Or another method I personally like to use a lot is closing my eyes and asking my spirit guides, give me a number 1 through 3. And whatever number they choose for you, that is the pile I recommend you pick. But whatever your method, when you're ready, drop down to the description box below, find the timestamp for your pile, and I will see you in our exciting chat about the cosmic shift unfolding for you now. See you in the reading, everyone. Hello there, my wonderful pile number 1. Welcome today to your pick a card reading about the cosmic shift unfolding for you soon. And as you recall, your pile leader was the beautiful card of Rescue. We have, it almost looks like a spirit guide coming down, finding someone who is resting down on the ground and using a light to wake them up or bring them some sort of maybe reassurance, maybe, well, literally a rescue from something. So perhaps you were drawn to this card, pile 1, because in your life recently you've been hoping for a rescue of some sort. But we'll see how the whole message unfolds with every other card that comes up. So speaking of, let's draw your cards. We'll begin with your tarot spread. So calling on spirit guides for pile number 1 today. Could you tell us a little bit more about the cosmic shift happening for them? Where are they coming from and where is the shift going? Thank you. Okay. So the standout ones are definitely these 2, and then I'm going to cut the deck for the last 3. Beautiful. I'll start on this one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Beautiful. And then let's draw your oracle cards, pile number 1. And just like I said when I was drawing or all of the pile leaders, I should say, in the very beginning, in the intro, I've actually never seen that card come up before. So speaking of new energy, we even have a new card that hasn't popped up in my readings before. Rescue. Maybe some of you even work in a career field or a job related to rescuing people. or maybe you're trying to shift to a career that does that, helps people. Of course, we'll see with your messages here. Okay, this one for sure was like, pick me. It's quite prominent. And then last but not least, we have the Soul Mirror Oracle. All right, Spirit, what final card do you want to give pile 1 today for their cosmic shift message? Okay, I'm actually going to pick this one. Beautiful. Thank you for your patience while we drew your cards, pile 1. Let's unveil first your tarot spread. So, right off the bat, your first tarot card today is the Tower. Okay, speaking of rescue, and especially because this is in the first position of my spread that I like to use, pile 1, I definitely get the sense that a lot of you had some sort of major bad thing happen in the past, at least somewhat recently, because the Tower is a card of disaster. We literally have 2 people falling out of the tower. It got struck by lightning. There's clouds. There's fire. It is probably one of the most negative cards in tarot, but the good news is that you got it in the inciting incident position, as I like to call this first position in my spread. So what that tells me, pile number 1, that this is thankfully past energy. Although my condolences for whatever it was you went through. I mean, if that's the case, no wonder why you were drawn to rescue as your pile leader, because maybe you're just like Rapunzel in the tower being like, hey, universe, I need a rescue from something. We'll see with the other cards, maybe more details as to what this was. So let's look at your second card. We have the Knight of Cups, taking action with our emotions, with our relationships, or taking action with our feelings. Intuition sometimes is a word used with the cup suit. Interesting. So we have the Knight of Cups. And especially it's like he has to ride his horse through water, which is not always, I mean, horses can ride through water, I guess, technically, but it's not always the easiest path, as if it was just like a smooth dirt path, so to speak. So I almost wonder, yeah, you've been working out of it slowly but surely, pile number 1. And that's the other thing, is the Knight of Cups does indicate, in terms of speed, probably the second slowest knight. The slowest is the Pentacles 1, and then the fastest is like the Knight of Swords. Cups is like the third slowest. So, I mean, it hasn't been like glacial pace, but maybe things aren't going fast enough for you in terms of like you wanting to get away from whatever this disaster was. Once again, no wonder why you picked rescue as your pile leader. Then in the heart of the matter, we have the Lovers reversed. Okay. So that can represent either a choice or not being able to make a choice, and then Lovers reversed can also, I mean, quite fittingly represent like a bad relationship. Okay. So a lot of you, this might have been like a bad relationship you moved away from that just completely fell apart. Especially too, because the Cups card came up right before this. And as I said, the Cup suit in tarot does tend to represent like relationships. But for some of you, where it isn't a relationship, it could also be like there was a bad choice made, or it was like one of those situations where it was a rock in a hard place. It really wasn't a good choice. And no matter what choice you made, it's like you knew that something bad could have happened. Okay, so yeah, no wonder why you clicked on this reading. You're like, oh my God, I need new shifts. I need new change. I need new energy in my life. So let's look at the near future and then the outcome cards. Okay, so we have the Six of Wands reversed. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second because I want to get the outcome card first to see the outcome. And then the Three of Pentacles. Okay, I will tell you this, pile number 1. Part of the shift coming for you is help is on the way. I can tell you that. I feel like you've been very solitary up until this point, having to deal with this particular problem. Like, you know, say if it was a relationship that fell apart, that was just like not a very good relationship, just, you know, maybe completely wrecked you to the bone. Afterwards, obviously, as bad breakups tend to happen, maybe you even lost like a friend group over this too, because I know sometimes if you have like a friend group associated with a partner that you're with, sometimes people will stay friends with the partner, but then they won't still continue to befriend you, and then you feel even like extra alone. So for some of you, that's the kind of energy I'm feeling, especially because of, you know, all the relationship oriented cards, and then also of course the Tower, and then too with rescue, it's kind of like you're all alone on that beach like this figure is, and you're like, man, I just wish someone would come along, and I wish I would just find some help, like not just from the universe, but I think maybe also people around you, or as I said too, even if it's not a relationship related thing that went wrong, pile number one, in general for most of you, I sense this feeling of I need rescue. I need a knight in shining armor. That's another phrase I forgot is often used with the Knight of Cups too. Like, you've had to be your own knight in shining armor up until this point because the Knight of Cups is in the recent past. But the shift coming is that you're getting that help with that Three of Pentacles as the outcome. Now, there's a little bit of a side piece of advice here, and or like a little like extra heads up on like the path ahead, because you have the Six of Wands reversed in the near future. Now, traditionally, pile one, the Six of Wands reversed represents a time where we feel like we're not victorious over something, or we feel like we're not getting publicly lauded for something. So I feel like you're still going to go through a time of at least kind of working through things on your own. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be victorious. It just means that maybe like the progress you're making and the shift that you're making here, or I should say like the cosmic shift coming, is not so much a very public one. It's something that seems to be happening like very intensely like inside of yourself. A lot of inner work being done, a lot of like inner shifts occurring. But then what happens, pile one, is that then because of what you do with those, everything you're doing inner work wise, that attracts people that are more on your level, that are more on like your frequency, if you want to use like the other spiritual term, I guess. People that are more aligned with who you are, and you'll find your people and you'll find your group again, and or even if it's not like a social relationship related thing, you'll find help for what it is that you're trying to look for, especially in the wake of what happened with this inciting incident that was a disaster of some sort with the tower. Okay, so rescue is coming. I promise, pile number one. I promise you, rescue is coming. It's not going to be like an in-your-face victory. That's another way we could interpret the Six of Wands reversed in the near future. It's not going to be like, necessarily like a victory in terms of, the trumpet fanfare isn't going to come out, and, the red carpet isn't going to roll out, and, it's not going to be like confetti poppers and like that kind of victory, right? But that doesn't mean, as I said, that there isn't going to be a very powerful victory internally. Okay, so look for victories here that are more about inner satisfaction rather than outer satisfaction or validation with this recovery from what happened. And then just know in the end, help is on the way. The cavalry is here, I guess you could say. I'm very curious. Let's look at your oracle cards. I haven't even looked at those yet. Usually I try to bring them all out before I read the tarot cards, but I was just so drawn into whatever was going here with like the tower. I was like, oh my god. All right, so once again, just before we go on to the oracle cards, pile one, my condolences for whatever it is you've gone through, because that is quite the drastic path that you've been walking here. You've been very strong. You have been very tough. Okay, this is not easy stuff to go through. So just before we even continue with the reading, pat yourself on the back, all right? And then for your Soul Mirror Oracle, you received the Transformation card, Repressed versus Activated. Beautiful. We'll put that one up here. And then for the Woodland Wardens, you have, the Snail and the Huckleberry. Trust in the invisible. Yes, okay. We do see, once again, an indicator of the slow progress that you've been making, like we talked about with the Knight of Cups with the snail. But just because it's slow progress, pile one, doesn't mean that there's no progress at all. Once again, that makes me think of that Six of Wands reversed message of there's a lot of shift coming that's very subtle. And, like the Snail and Huckleberry says, it's like invisible progress forward, that I almost feel like there's things improving for you in the wings, not even related necessarily to the inner work that you've been doing and the picking up of the pieces, but like things shifting around in the universe that you're just not quite aware of yet, that will become obvious to you at that time where you do find your tribe, or like the people that come to help you, or person that comes to help you with the Three of Pentacles. Okay. And then, yes, okay, we have security. Okay, beautiful. And that's the other beautiful thing about this particular reading, pile one, is that, yes, we had kind of a sad beginning here with the tower and you having to be your own knight in shining armor, which commend yourself for. Remember that. I said that. And two, like, the Lovers, as I said, reversed. It might have been, a choice between a rock and a hard place, that kind of thing. Not a fun position to be in, but even though you're going forward solo, at least for the meantime, and even though you're going forward having to pick up the pieces internally a lot before outside events come forward to represent the shift that you're going through and the shift of the universe that is helping you kind of behind the scenes that you don't necessarily recognize yet. These cards are basically spirit saying, yes, you'll make your way to that security, okay? I almost wonder, too, if a lot of what happened is, I'm getting the sense, pile one, that maybe you had your faith shaken in things, too. Maybe what happened was so, like, I guess I'll just use the simple word bad. Whatever happened was so bad that maybe you felt like, oh my God, how could the universe ever be in my corner because of what happened? How could anything ever get up or get better or improve from here? That, you know, it's one of those moments in life, I feel like, pile one, where you get to so rock bottom emotionally and spiritually and mentally because of what happened that sometimes it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So I think you might be past the worst of that now. I think you're still, you know, obviously you're still reeling from it. I think you're still dealing with picking up the pieces, as I mentioned. So maybe you have started to kind of see the light or like a way out of what's been going on here. But if not, just be reassured with this reading here that there's improvements coming that you don't see, especially in the areas of security. So a lot of you, it might have even been, depending on, you know, if like you maybe lived with this particular partner, or say if the tower moment had been like the loss of a job, maybe right now, like that's what you're worried about most is, oh my God, my security is at stake here. Because especially in this economy, pile number one, you know, a lot of us are getting by paycheck to paycheck, having to roommate, you know, with other people, or having a roommate and then, or rooming with other people, I should say. And so maybe by like the loss of that partner, who had maybe been a roommate as well, helping you buoy up payments for the bills, the rent, whatever, food, by losing them, it wasn't just the loss of a heartbreak, it was also the loss of security as well. Or like I said, same thing too, if it had been maybe the loss of a job. Quite straightforward, makes sense why your security would feel sort of threatened. Okay, so that is improving. That's another shift coming in. I'm actually going to draw some tarot cards on that, because I'm going to ask like how that security comes about. I do think it's through the help of other people, as we said with the Three of Pentacles, but I just want to, for your sake, pile number one, especially with everything that you've been going through, I want to provide that like extra reassurance to you as like the vehicle of delivery as to how that security is coming, okay? Yeah, and then trust in the invisible, we already kind of explained that in terms of like things happening behind the scenes that maybe you don't necessarily recognize. Your spirit guides helping you behind the scenes, making sure that these things align in order for you to receive blessings after this time of darkness, okay? And then transformation, we didn't even talk about too much yet. And I find it interesting because it's like this woman is sitting there and she's looking down. It almost kind of looks like she's crying. I want to say she's crying because she's got her head held. At the very least, she's kind of in a dour mood. She's kind of sad. She's upset. And, you know, it's interesting here. The quote says, find your wings. You might not be able to see that on camera because it's quite small, but it does say find your wings. So it's like she's so focused on what's in front of her and the sadness in front of her that she's not realizing that behind her there's a transformation occurring with the butterfly wings, okay? And that's, you know, what butterflies do represent symbolically, pile one, is metamorphosis and transformation, hence the title. So once again, it's that trust in the invisible, things happening behind your back that you don't quite necessarily see. Same thing too, even when you look at the figure in rescue, she's not looking up at the spirit guide coming down, rescuing her. She's still looking at the water around her, which could represent, you know, her emotions, her feelings, as water often does represent in cartomancy. And she's down on the ground and she's just like, how do I get out of this? You know, I'm at rock bottom, you know, that feeling we discussed before, but all of a sudden, behind her back, when she's not looking, there's a spirit guide coming down to help her. Literally shining light on her face. Putting a hand on her shoulder. Okay. Alright, so let's draw those three cards on like how the security comes about. Besides, like I said, I think other people will be involved in that. The cavalry will be here, but as I said, I just want to reassure you, pile one. So, Spirit, could you tell me a little bit more in terms of the shift coming here? What's the vehicle of delivery for that security for that invisible good thing coming pile one's way. What's the vehicle of delivery? The Four of Coins reversed, okay, or Four of Pentacles reversed. Funds being released, that's what that means, pile number 1. Money being released to you. Upright, it's like clutching onto your money, just like this. I believe that's a vulture, technically. Just like this vulture is kind of shielding things away. The money and the woman between his wings. But reversed, it's, okay, now I let go of that money. So funds being released, that's one way that relief and that security is coming. We also have Temperance reversed. Interesting. Let's look at the third card before I speak on that. I'm drawn to this particular card. Then we have the Eight of Cups reversed. Okay. Interesting. So the Temperance reversed often represents something out of balance or lacking moderation, and the Eight of Cups reversed can represent something in terms of struggling to emotionally move on from things. Once again, we have lots of water here, because Cups is water, and then Temperance has a lot of water symbolism in it, too. Let me think on that for just a moment, pile number 1. So the release of funds, where there has been imbalance. You know, it's really odd, pile number 1. For some of you, I'm hearing a message about this is more intuitive than really based on the cards, but let me just say it, because I always say things that come to mind intuitively just in case it resonates with someone out there. For at least one or some of you, if not all of you, there's help coming from someone related to the place that you left behind, or the social situation you left behind. I don't know, say if it was losing a job, it might be someone at your old job that's going to be like, hey, this new position opened up at my friend's company, I think you'd be perfect for it. It's something along those lines. Or some of the help might be coming in terms of, say if it was a relationship that broke apart, or, a tough separation from a friend group, it could be that someone comes forward and helps you from that group that you thought you lost. It's something along those lines, pile number 1. And I say that because I guess tarot is kind of linked into this intuition, because it's saying that the release of funds or resources or security will come out of a place that hasn't been left yet emotionally, hence the Eight of Cups reversed, and where you thought there was a lack of balance or moderation, or you thought there was maybe you thought everyone there was against you, or everyone in that group was against you, but there might be actually one person who actually understands your side of the story, and they know that, obviously, it's what I'm seeing here, pile number 1. It seems like you were probably more of the victim in the situation, okay? And it's they understand that, so they're like, I want to help pile 1 out. And I think that is the mechanism through which the invisible, so to speak, is helping you. It's just that for some reason it took a while from whenever this disaster or tower moment happened for them to come forward to, either say if it is a job, opening, and they're like, hey, by the way, I saw this, I think you'd be perfect for it. That invisible just took time for that company to have that position open up, and that's kind of how that works with the machinations of the universe. And then same thing too, where this old friend coming forward, if that's more your situation to help you, there's something there about they were waiting for the perfect moment, and for other people involved to kind of emotionally move on before they come forward to help you. Okay, but either way, you do have that reconfirmation of the release of resources or the release of stability and funds with the Four of Pentacles reversed. It's okay, finally money is released to you. Or in any situations coming up too, where you're looking for these shifts in maybe maybe money has been held back from you. Maybe you didn't get paid for something you were supposed to, or you've been trying to gain money from something that was supposed to be given to you, but it hasn't yet. This is also a really good sign that that's also part of the shift coming for you, is the money being released and then that security coming forward. Okay. All right, so just keep your chin up, pile number 1. I know it's been hard. I can tell it right away when the tower came out. I was like, uh-oh. Pile 1 has been having a heck of a time. But I guarantee you there is security coming. Okay. Positive transformation, positive shifts, and rescue, just like the pile leader you chose. Okay. So, wishing you many blessings, pile number 1, especially you today. Everything that's been going on. If the reading helped you, if you liked it, please, usual YouTube spiel, the drill, like, comment, subscribe. I won't repeat it to ad nauseum. You know what to do. Thank you so much too if you choose to do so. Any one of those three things, if not all three. And as is our tradition in Lone Pine Tarot, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, Pile 1. Hello there, my wonderful Pile number 2. Welcome today to your Pick a Card reading about the next cosmic shift unfolding for you soon. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to Perseverance as your pile leader, or perhaps the number 39. So, Perseverance, we see a figure who is struggling but succeeding as she tries to get up a mountain of some sort. She's holding on to a rope tied to what looks to be an object that is shedding light. So what this says to me as a tarot reader, Pile number 2, is I think part of the shift coming is related to a goal that you've been trying to seek, or a mountain that you've metaphorically been trying to climb in some way. The energy of this card reminds me a lot of the Nine of Wands, if you're familiar with that card from tarot, in that it speaks of a situation where determination has been the driving engine or the driving factor fueling you and pushing you forward. But perhaps you're asking the universe, could you give me a bit of a nudge to help me get to that goal, that mountaintop, even faster? So I think that might be what the shift is related to. But with further clarity, we'll see for sure. So let's draw your tarot card spread as well as your other oracle cards. So calling on Spirit for our wonderful Pile 2 today. Could you tell us more about this shift coming for them? What area of their life does it stem from? Where is it going? What's the shift itself? Thank you. Okay, we have the Three of Cups reversed as the inciting incident, our first card. I'll just put that there right now because we already saw it. And then let's draw the others. So there is card number 2, 3, 4, and I'm feeling this one for card number 5. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Spirit. And then let's draw your oracle cards. So we have Woodland Warden's Oracle. Okay, this one feels quite prominent, so we'll take it. Then we have the Soul Mirror Oracle. And the Three of Cups reversed, Pile 2, as I'm just drawing your other cards. For those of you that aren't familiar with tarot, Three of Cups reversed tends to represent a situation, most likely social or related to other people, that at the very beginning of all this has not been going so well. So I think that's part of where this stems from, and where the shift that's coming is sort of like, this was, I mean, that's what I call the first card in my spread, is the inciting incident. So it was like the inciting incident of everything going on that's leading up to the shift. So sometimes that can represent like maybe a bad workplace. That's one way that can manifest. It could also represent perhaps a bad friend group, maybe just feeling like you aren't aligned with the people around you. Maybe that's kind of what spurred you to start seeking this goal, if that's what resonates with you. But let's look at your other cards to be certain. So let's grab your second tarot card. We have the Hermit. Yes, okay. So interestingly, we have actually two opposite cards, because the Three of Cups, as I explained, is like social situations, right? Then right up next, we have the Hermit, which is we're going into isolation of some sort. So potentially bad social situation leading into a lot of isolation. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean like bad isolation, Pile number 2. The Hermit upright especially can mean in this recent past position that you have been like seeking wisdom internally, maybe just kind of focusing on your own stuff rather than the stuff of other people around you. It could have been maybe even that you left, say, a job and went solo. Maybe you became an entrepreneur or started a new business. That might be the goal that we're talking about. But let's get some more insight. Yes, okay, Six of Cups reversed as the heart of the matter especially. Keep getting the full picture. The World reversed. Okay. And then we have the Tower as the outcome. Okay. Now, some of you are going to see that Tower, and you're going to be like, if you're familiar with tarot, you're going to go, uh-oh. But just hear me out, Pile number 2. If you know what the Tower means, don't immediately assume that that outcome means like a really bad disaster coming. Just let's look at all the cards in tandem to be sure. So from Sacred Destiny, we have Purity. Yes, okay. That makes total sense. I know why that's coming out. And actually, this sounds odd, but I'm going to put this to the side here, your Oracle cards on the top, because we will read the tarot spread first. I will put them upright again when we look at the Oracle cards more in detail, but then we have Unveiling with Clouded versus Radiant. Seeing something clearly, something becoming clear. And then we have the Badger and the Ginkgo with Healing Wounds. Okay. So I'll put that one on the side as well, for now at least. So yes, pile number 2. What a spread we have here. So yes, as I already explained at the very beginning, I won't repeat it too much. The shift that's coming forward for you is coming out of a time of, as I said, like a bad social situation or a bad environment where other people around you are involved. That's why you got the Three of Cups reversed as the first card. That sends you, I think, into a period of time of isolation, hence the Hermit in the recent past position. Okay, that tends to represent, going within, seeking wisdom within, very opposite of that Three of Cups reversed energy that came out right before it. Okay, so we went from the extreme of maybe not the best social situation or friend group or work environment to, okay, now we're going to just work on our own stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean maybe that you left that workplace, but maybe you just stopped focusing on the big picture of it and were like, you know what, maybe I don't feel so aligned with this workplace. I'll just kind of focus on what I can do on my own in my own little cave or cubicle, so to speak, right? Or it could also mean literally that you did leave, as I said before. Maybe some of you literally left that job and you become an entrepreneur. You're trying to strike it out on your own because, as I said, the hermit is someone who is alone. Traditionally we think of a hermit as someone outside of a society or outside of a group, okay? But the benefit is that you have been gaining wisdom. It's been a very fruitful time in terms of knowledge and in terms of internal discovery. Those are things also associated with the Hermit. So I think that's where the shift is coming from, pile 2, is out of this time of potentially isolation, but as I said too, that inner discovery. What's interesting is that you have the Six of Cups reversed as the heart of the matter, so to speak. And that's kind of like the underlying theme of everything going on and the underlying theme of the shift. Now, tying this to the Tower, because this is where we're leading to. As I said, don't run away from the reading just because the Tower came out. And, for those of you that are familiar with tarot, necessarily that the Tower doesn't, it's always not the best card, but it doesn't mean in this situation that a disaster is coming. Because what I see for you, pile number 2, is rather than it being like, a massive thing falling apart or a massive thing going wrong, I see it more, in the way of how the Tower sometimes can represent a shift in terms of something was built on shaky foundations, and so it was meant to fall because it's clearing the way for something better. Okay, that's why I said don't freak out yet. And that ties into the Six of Cups reversed, because I think in the situation that you have been in so far, there's been a lot of buildup, is the word I would use, of kind of just like bad negative things going on. Say if it is like a workplace in your situation, like there's just a lot of negative energy there, a lot of, I want to say almost like bad blood building up too. That's the way that the Six of Cups reversed can reveal itself, in terms of it's just like negative past energy that has been underlying this whole thing. And two, it does represent, and that's why I said this particular Tower to me feels like it's more the idea of something coming down that was built on shaky foundations in the first place, because a Six of Cups reversed, pile 2, can represent, something that wasn't going well from the very start, because the Six of Cups is like long bad history reversed, okay? And so I feel like some of you might already kind of know that this shift is coming with this particular company. Like maybe that it's maybe not going so well, or, or if it was like a friend group instead of a work situation, like you kind of know that friend group is going downhill. You're like, well, yeah, there's been bad blood for a while. It does not shock me. Maybe that's even why you left in the first place, but you're kind of still seeing it from the outside, maybe other people involved or that you still talk to, etc. Or, say too, like if your situation is more the example I described of, say you already left a workplace and now you're striking it on your own. In that case, I think that this would be reinterpreted for you seeing a shift in that by leaving, you realize, oh, I made a really great choice to leave, because I think you're going to maybe see that company that you left fold. Okay, that's what I'm seeing here. So it's a shift in energy of not only, a place or a group that you left that was negative, falling apart. So in that way, it's like a confirmation of you were right to have that intuition of maybe I should leave. But it's also something that might propel you even more forward towards the goal that you've been working on, because it'll just reaffirm to you, pile number 2, that, well, yes, you're on the right path, you were correct, but then also that you were correct in thinking that there's something about this situation that's like not serving the goal that I'm working towards, or what I want out of this workplace or friend group, hence why you left or were considering leaving. And so it fuels you even more, because you're like, oh, okay, I had the right sense, I had the right mind, and I was on the right idea here. Does that kind of make sense, pile number 2? What's interesting, too, is that we also have the world reverse, which means something is not coming to an end that should. I think that is, maybe you're even sort of shocked that maybe this friend group hasn't fallen apart already, or this workplace, etc. But then inevitably, we do see the tower at the end as the outcome. Boom, the shaky foundations finally come to roost. And then the tower falls. Okay, but the beauty of the tower, pile 2, and this is why it's not as scary as it seems, is that after things fall down, the tower clears ways for new things to be built that are better. Okay, so it's basically like, sometimes we see a tower moment as, yes, it's this moment of really pivotal change. And at the time, it can kind of feel chaotic, but it falls down for a reason, but then B, too, so that there is way made for better things to be built on what was there before. Okay, it's almost kind of like, imagine, this workplace or this friend group as a house that you knew had a crack in the foundation. Okay, so you left because you're like, I don't want this house to come toppling down on me with this crack in the foundation or whatever. And then you leave, and then you're on the outside of this metaphorical house, so to speak, and you see it from the outside, boom, flattened like a pancake, like you thought it would. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then it's like, by that clearing out, then a better house metaphorically can be built on the foundation of the one that fell before. Okay. And your oracle cards are interesting. Now we'll turn those right back up, as I was promised before. Purity and the badger and the ginkgo with healing wounds. And then we also have unveiling with clouded versus radiant. The unveiling card, to me, pile number 2, speaks to me of the shift also. We already touched on it a little bit, but I'll just reiterate it. Of you seeing the truth of this now. Before, it was like you were kind of walking through a foggy path. You're like, well, I'm not really sure leaving is the best idea. I'm not really sure, am I right about this situation? But the unveiling is basically saying, yes, pile 2, you were 100% correct. Now I see the light of this. And I think other people, too, in the situation, maybe they didn't listen to you. Maybe you tried to warn some people and you're like, hey, I don't think this is really... I don't think we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's here. This might not work out the way you expect it to. And maybe people didn't listen to you, pile number 2. But then the tower falls and they're like, oh, pile 2 was right. So there's also a bit of a vindication there, too. A feeling of, yes, people in the situation might be like, oh, maybe I should have listened to pile number 2. Okay. But, especially, too, because she has the moon on her forehead, which is like intuition over the third eye. So it's like your intuition was correct, pile number 2. Things were clouded before, but then it becomes radiantly clear. And I think, too, that there's something I'm hearing intuitively about this situation where when the tower does fall, part of what happens in the aftermath is going to be... the imagery I'm being shown is almost like you picking up bricks from the fallen tower and then using the fallen bricks to build the new thing that's better afterwards. Okay, so it's like you're taking pieces of that old thing that fell down that was on shaky foundations. So it's not like you're throwing out everything, but, that might represent itself. And maybe if you are starting a new business, like after that old company falls, maybe you take some of the employees with you, like you hire them if you're at that point yet where like you can hire other people, or, maybe there are parts of that place that you left that you liked. So you take some of those values with you. And then too, it can also represent like skills that you take with you that you learned from the previous job, or same thing too, like if it's a social situation, pile 2, and not so much like a work environment thing. It could also represent that maybe some people finally, after seeing the light, they were like, oh, pile 2 was right. Maybe I shouldn't have stayed in that friend group or whatever, and things were kind of more toxic than I thought. They see the light and then they're like, okay, and then maybe they should you choose to allow them back into your life, if you did close some of them out, that the bricks, so to speak, that you're picking up with you are people from that old friend group that, after seeing the light, they're like, okay, let's repair our relationship with pile number 2. I understand that they were correct now. Something like that or along those lines. Or even if it's not related to work environment or friends, just kind of, extrapolate that to whatever situation you're feeling is resonating with this message. But I think for a lot of you, that is it, especially because of that 3 of Cups and the reversed in the beginning. Now, we do have the Badger and Ginkgo with healing wounds and then purity too. The purity card makes me think of a shift as well towards a more pure path. And when I say pure path, pile 2, what I mean is just like how the tower was built on shaky foundations before it fell down. What that means metaphorically is like, I think the place you were at before did not have purity in terms of their values. So it's like maybe they were doing things kind of underhandedly. Maybe they weren't really doing, like their mission wasn't really for the right reasons, or like, some companies will say our mission is to help blah, 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 but really they just care about profit or whatever. They don't actually care about things, which is unfortunate, but that does happen. I've worked at companies like that myself, so I can vouch for that, right? Unfortunately, doesn't always make for the best workplace environment, especially if you're someone you want to have a sole purpose aligned with what you're doing, okay, or something meaningful with what you're doing. But this new path, this new shift after the tower falls, is a path that is purer towards values and purer towards like what is the actual mission that you're working on or the thing that you want to do, okay? So that's what I mean with the positive side of the tower clearing way, is it gets rid of all the old stuff that wasn't aligned with purity of value anymore, so that now we can build something that is more honest and true. Okay. And then too, with the Badger and the Ginkgo, healing wounds. Healing, maybe some of you it's related to like nursing or healing or some sort of healthcare related thing. That might be one indication that this is the area of your life that Spirit is speaking about. Maybe you like left a healthcare company, or like you're trying to build like a health related thing or business. But it can also mean to the healing of wounds internally. So I think that's some of the internal shift that we haven't talked about yet. We've talked about external shifts a lot, especially with that tower, right? But this can mean like that internal healing that's been going on. I think the Hermit is kind of a reflection of that. You've been, especially because it's in the recent past position, you've been kind of soul searching and trying to soul heal a little bit after the place that you left, or at least maybe you've kind of lowered your expectations of it, knowing that the tower might fall here. And so you're like, well, I'm just going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on healing wounds. Or, say if it is a healthcare company, maybe you're like, I'm just going to focus on actually helping the people like I want to, and not worry so much about like the profit-driven motive that the company might have. It's just as one example. And so it's like Spirit commending you for that. And that's part of the alchemy of what's transitioning this towards putting you on a better path with trying to bring you to a place that is of like greater intention or greater purity of purpose, especially when it comes to healing others and healing wounds, but also, as I said, internally healing yourself, healing your own wounds. Maybe the wound of, sometimes when we work at companies that have more of a profit-driven motive than a motive of actually helping people, sometimes that can kind of feel like our souls have been tainted too. I know I felt like that before at certain jobs, pile number 2, and we feel like, God, did I actually help people, or was I just encouraging suffering? So that might be a wound that maybe you're dealing with now that is currently in the process of healing. Okay, that might be another part of this cosmic shift for you. And 2, it could also even be older wounds that seem unrelated that could potentially heal from the new path that you're being encouraged towards after the tower falls. Okay, so basically, if I have any advice for you on the situation, pile 2, especially because, as I said, I know people see the tower and everyone freaks out. They're like, uh-oh, or as soon as if you're not familiar with tarot, and as soon as a tarot reader says, oh, that means a disaster, everyone freaks out, right? You're going to be fine. I can tell you that, pile number 2, especially because you were drawn to perseverance as your pile leader. Perseverance means you're going to, persevere. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through. You have a solid foundation. You have the right mindset for whatever particular situation this is that you're transitioning to, okay? Just keep your goal in mind of what is the most pure purpose I have in this situation, okay? What do I truly care about? And use that as your anchor to help you climb up that metaphorical mountain. It might even be truth, too, because we do see, like, rays of light shining off of that goal or that orb that she's holding her rope to in that picture. And then we do see that imagery of light, too, here in Unveiling. So maybe it's the truth. Maybe you're trying to get the truth out there. Maybe you're trying to encourage other people to leave this place or this friend group, whatever it might be. And in which case I would say, pile 2, you're going to be successful because you're going to finally help that tower fall down. It's going to be a bit of a struggle because you do have the world reversed in the near future. I think it's kind of what you're going through right now, too, is unveiling bad things from the past here with the Six of Cups reversed, and then the world reversed in the near future, right? As I said before, is like this feeling of like this thing needs to end, but it's not. Like you're trying to close the chapter of a book, but it just, like the spine won't close. But then it finally does. Okay, so your perseverance will be rewarded, pile number 2. Also, your purity of intention will be rewarded, too. Okay, I think the people involved that didn't have the best intentions in mind, maybe that's partially why you left whatever this was. I think you're going to end up better off than they will. Okay, after this. I mean, the tower falling for them is like the tower of corruption or the tower of pride. Or whatever else maybe they had built, or greed too, possibly. Maybe whatever else they had built this shaky foundation on, okay? But you had purity of intention, so you're going to make it through just fine, I think, pile number 2, okay? So don't fear that tower moment. It's the storm that clears away the old and allows in better new things, okay? So that was your reading today about the cosmic shift entering your life soon. If it helped you, and hopefully if the tower didn't scare you right at the moment I said that, and if you made it all the way to the end of this reading, please, use your YouTube spiel. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I don't have to repeat it too much. But thank you very much if you do decide to do any one of those 3 things, if not all 3. I'm eternally grateful for your comments and hearing back from you and etc. So in our traditional Lone Pine Tarot, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading, pile 2. Bye. Hello there, my wonderful pile number 3. Welcome today to your pick a card reading about what cosmic shift is unfolding for you soon. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to Invention, or perhaps the number 17, as your pile leader of choice today. Now, of course, when we think of the word invention, we think of things that are new. We think of bringing new products to market, or perhaps inventing new things scientifically, or it can even mean creatively too, right? In terms of maybe you've been working on a new creative project recently, writing, art, music, what have you. But we'll see all of your cards in tandem to make sure that we know the full message. But that's at least the first intuitive glimpses I'm getting, is that your new shift is something related to perhaps something you're trying to bring about into being that is, well, not to be repetitive, but new. So let's put your pile leader over here to the left to begin. Let's draw your tarot spread to start. So calling on Spirit for pile 3, their highest, best, good. Could you tell me more about where the shift is coming from and where is it going? What's the mechanism of the change? Thank you. Okay, we have the Six of Wands reversed as the first card. Okay, maybe some of you already tried to release something and it was to like little fanfare. Because this is the inciting incident card, pile number 3. And that means something that's like what started all of this. Maybe you did try to release something and it was like, oh, no one really reacted to it or didn't get the acclaim that you were looking for, something along those lines. Or maybe it failed. That could be another way that the Six of Wands might represent itself, pile number 3. And so that's kind of what's leading into the situation, is context from Spirit as to saying, we're talking about something to you, pile 3, about something that failed or you didn't receive victory for that you were expecting. At least in the very beginning. Okay, we'll talk about where the shift is going with the other cards, but let's grab your Oracle decks as well. Spirit, anything else you want to say to pile 3 about this? Which, my condolences if so, pile 3. It's quite disheartening if you make something and you release it and it feels like just nobody notices, or you didn't get the funding you were looking for something. Maybe, like I said, if it's literally an invention perhaps, or I'm trying to think of other situations that might apply to. Or, perhaps you reinvented something, like say you rebranded a business, or you rebranded, I don't know, something. Like you tried to rehaul it or overhaul it, or you did something that was new, and it's just so disheartening when it just doesn't work out. You're like, man, was it all for naught? Where's this going? So the shift is something with that. Some of you, it might have even been related to, I don't know, education, like maybe a failed test, or perhaps like you presented a project and it didn't go so well. Let's keep looking at the other cards for clarity, of course. So first up from the other tarot cards, we'll show those first. We have, in the recent past, the King of Pentacles. Okay, so it might be related to career. We have the turtle with the pine on its back. The world turtle, I believe that's what it's called. Then we have the Ace of Cups reversed. Okay. Yeah, we're feeling a little disheartened. Then we have the Ten of Cups. Okay, but it's going to a really good place, I can tell you that, pile number 3. Positive. Beautiful. And then, last but not least, we have Death, which doesn't literally mean death, pile 3. So don't run away from the reading if you're not familiar with that card, but we have Death. Okay, I'll tell you this, though. Positive things coming your way, pile 3. So if whatever's been going on has been kind of like, I released this thing, didn't work out so well, or I didn't get the acclaim I was looking for, etc., the big shift coming is a lot more success. But let's once again look at the details. We have the Oracle card of Inner Peace. Beautiful. And actually, I'm going to put these up here sideways, at least until we talk about the tarot spread in totality, because I just want to make sure I don't cover the tarot cards while I'm talking about them. Then we have, okay, well, what do you know? Peace. Twice. We have Inner Peace with this deck. We have Peace with the Soul Mirror Oracle with Chaotic versus Calm. We have Light shining upon her. Beautiful. Trying to see those petals around her. I think it's petals, and then flowers on her dress, of course. Gorgeous. Okay, you're also going from a time of chaos to peace, I can tell you that. That's quite obvious. Spirit is just like, here's a bunch of cards that say peace. And then we have the Dragonfly and Pansy with balance. Okay. Greater balance, greater peace. Wonderful. Okay, this is a fantastic thing happening. Okay, so as I said, pile number 3. Yeah, I won't reiterate what I talked about with the Six of Wands reversed. We already said, try to release something, do something, tested for something, whatever. Didn't work out so well. At the very beginning, at least, this is where this shift is coming from, inciting incident, because this is past energy. As I said, it might be related to a job or career, because you did get the King of Pentacles as your recent past card. I do feel like you had at least some sort of success with it, though, because the King of Pentacles in the recent past, upright specifically, can indicate that there's still success here of some sort, because a King of Pentacles upright, pile 3, is a figure who is doing very well in terms of resources and finances, or related to their job or their career. That, or even if you don't necessarily see the effects of it yet, of your efforts, that basically is Spirit saying what you did in the recent past regarding this job or career or this invention thing that you're trying to work on. Yes, even if you don't necessarily see the results yet, you are on the path to success because of your recent efforts. Okay, so don't feel like everything has been all for naught. I feel like that Six of Wands reversed energy or event was kind of just a little, maybe a bit of a speed bump in the hill, or a little bit of a valley before you go up the mountain. Okay, so don't be disheartened. Okay, which, that's how you feel right now, though, because you have the Ace of Cups reversed as the heart of the matter. Excuse me. I apologize, my voice is a bit scratchy today, so if I clear my throat, that's why. But yeah, feeling disheartened in the middle there with the heart of the matter. Ace of Cups reversed is feeling like blessings are not flowing our way. Our heart is a bit deadened to this new endeavor as well, because aces are always about new things in our lives. They're the first of each suit. So yeah, I definitely feel that for you, pile number 3. You're like, man, I'm just not feeling it. Maybe you're even considering giving it up. Maybe that's part of why you came to this reading, is this feeling of, I want to give up on this thing, because you know what, I feel like I'm just not getting the acclaim or the results that I want. I can tell you, pile number 3, don't give up, because look at the cards you have here in the near future. you have the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups is literally the happily ever after card, especially when it comes to relationships and feelings, because it is the water suit in tarot, which, you got a lot of other water cards too. I mean, look at the koi fish there in Inner Peace. And then you also have the Ace of Cups as well, lots of water cards. So if you're looking for maybe success with a relationship, that's also a really good sign there, pile number 3, if maybe that's what you felt had kind of failed. If it's something regarding like a job or a project that you're working on, then the happily ever after in that case would mean that the shift is going towards, I mean, I can kind of see here, it almost looks like people literally looking at this married couple like an audience. So it's like finding an audience of what you're trying to pursue. For those of you in creative endeavors, that might be literally like maybe selling, the first copy of your book, or selling a certain amount of copies of your book, if that's your situation. Or it's like an audience will finally notice like an art piece of yours, if you're into like art, if that's kind of what's been going on. Or same thing with music, you'll find listeners. But what's interesting here is at the very end you have death. And death in tarot, pile 3, often represents change. It's the shift of one phase into another. It's not, sometimes it can literally mean death, but in a situation like this with the cards you've received so far, it almost feels like to me that you're not just going to find an audience, but there's like a sensation of evolving here because of the action of change that death is related to. Okay, so it's a positive change, pile number 3. I almost feel like, it's odd too because you have so many cards that are about peace. Especially your koi fish here says inner peace, and then you got peace too from the Soul Mirror Oracle. So I almost wonder if the shift here isn't so much you finding happily ever after in terms of like the initial acclaim that you were looking for, although I do see you finding an audience, especially for those of you that are looking for like an art piece or a musical piece, etc., to be noticed. But it almost feels like the victory or success here is in the mechanism of evolving. As I said, it's like you changing like kind of what the goal is, or like changing what your definition of success is. Okay. And I think that's maybe why you were drawn to Invention as your pile leader in the first place. Because really, what is Invention, pile number 3? But, the birth of something new after we realize that the old thing isn't working anymore, right? The old phrase goes, necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, so I almost feel like there might be an area of your life where this shift is coming in terms of, like, you might find success with the initial thing, but it's like the shift of, there's this new necessity that you notice, and you're like, well, you know what? That's kind of adjacent to what I've been doing, and it hasn't been addressed yet. And that's why it's like an invention, because it's so new, even if it's not like a literal invention, right? Pile number 3. It's something along those lines. Now, the abundance of peace cards might represent that, like, part of the goal of this change or this evolving of your goal or mission or thing that you're trying to create and get out there is something more towards that would like bring peace to other people. And then also too, the Dragonfly and Pansy talks about like balance, right? Bringing greater balance to other people. So say, just for one example, this might manifest in, let's say you make music, pile number 3, and you really haven't been finding an audience for it so far. Maybe you're kind of like, well, no one's really listening to it on YouTube or Spotify, whatever platform you might perform it on, or I guess not perform, publish it on, that's the word. In that case, then the peace change of the death card might be towards maybe making music that's more along trying to bring people peace, like meditation music perhaps, or calming type music. Now, I know not all of you are making music, that might not apply to all of you, but that's just as one example of like what peace would be. Or, say you're creating a book or a piece of art, and maybe the art could reflect a time in your life that like what peace means to you, or something that is meant to bring peace to the viewer. I guess it kind of depends on how you, each and every single artist is different as to why they paint or draw or create certain different things, and where it stems from too, because, some artists I've heard, they're like, well, I want to evoke this in the viewer when they look at this piece, or they listen to this piece, etc., or read this piece. And some artists are like, well, this thing that I created symbolically stemmed from a time of, I felt peace in my life, just using that as an example. Or it might be other things, of course. It might be, when they felt angry or trying to evoke sadness or a time that they had heartbreak, whatever it might be. Creativity comes from a bunch of different places. But I think you specifically, pile 3, because of those cards, that's why I mentioned peace specifically as a source. Maybe even a literal death in your life has changed a lot of this. You might be inspired by a death that has occurred recently in your life. Maybe that's kind of what spurred you on with this invention, trying to think of other ways that might come about. I suppose I've said enough examples, pile 3, so you get the gist. But in general, I can guarantee you this major shift coming is you finding at least sort of a bit of an audience, if not a big audience, for the initial thing that you were trying to invent or work on, but also greater satisfaction and greater success after your goal evolves. Okay. Now, I think I want to ask one last question for you, pile 3. And I'm trying to think, if I were you sitting in your seat right now, what question would I want a tarot reader to answer most? I'm kind of stuck between asking more about how this goal should change in terms of advice, or I could also ask for you, what else is coming that's positive after the shift, after the change of death? I'm going to ask what else is positive coming in terms of the shift. Okay, I think that's a good question to top the reading off of with. Or cap the reading off is probably a better way to put that. I don't know. I'm tired. Sometimes I don't speak right when I'm tired. All right, Spirit. What positive things are coming after this death change? Other than peace. Also, another thing, pile number 3, I didn't mention is that you might actually find that the changes towards a lifestyle of greater peace, maybe that's kind of the shift that's going, is not just a shift of peace and maybe what the subject matter might be, but also in terms of, it's successful enough that it allows you more peace rather than chaos, especially if, finances are involved. Like, say you're kind of hoping that this creative thing takes off because you want to make some money off of it, for example. In that case, the peace might be a greater peace of mind in terms of your security and finances. I didn't mention that before, so I wanted to bring it up again. Or not again. Once again. I can't speak today. Forgive me, I'm tired. All right. So let's look at the blessings coming from this. Okay, we have the Empress reversed. We'll talk about that in a moment. The positive things happening after the shift. We have the 5 of Wands. And then we have the 8 of Cups. What an interesting blend of cards. Now, when I ask about the blessings or the good things that are coming in the future about something, I tend to read reversals as the things that are going to positively change that are out of whack now. So with the Empress being reversed, pile number 3, that almost makes me feel like right now, or where you are right now, is not a good place for nurturing the goal that you're trying to bring about. So I would almost take that as, and I know I asked about future, positive things coming from this after this change occurs, this shift. But I'm hearing another side message from Spirit that if the first thing or attempt failed, I would not take it as an indication that you were at fault or that your thing wasn't good enough, whatever it was you were trying to invent or push out there. It's just that it wasn't the right place to plant that seed to grow, okay? Sometimes when an audience rejects something we do, or when we're rejected from something, it doesn't mean that our product or creation or that we ourselves are inherently flawed, pile 3. It can also mean that it just wasn't put in a place where the right eyes could admire whatever that was, or admire yourself, if it's more like you putting yourself out there, right? So the Empress in this case would tell me that in the future, part of the change is bringing yourself to a better place to where you can nurture things. Because an Empress reversed can represent right now that things aren't really nurturing, things aren't really in the best place to grow. But that's part of what will shift, okay? Then we have the 5 of Wands and the 8 of Cups. The 5 of Wands means, in this particular situation, I would read it as healthy competition, okay? So there might be a little bit of extra competition where you're going with this. That's part of maybe where this is evolving to. But it's not bad competition, because the 5 of Wands, unlike the 5 of Swords, tends to be more lighthearted, competitive, kind of fun sort of conflict in terms of, let's see who can do the best, like, or who can win in this tug of war. But it's lighthearted. It's not mean. Okay. So you might also find more like-minded people here too after this shift. But people that support you and challenge you in a positive way. Like they push you to be greater, and they push you to really increase, like how much you put into your work. Not that you don't do that already, but when you're around like-minded people, pile number 3, as we all know naturally, we sometimes feel even pushed to create even greater things, through positive comparison, not bad comparison. And then also too, like just being around like-minded people can help us expand in new horizons, because they might suggest things from your shared knowledge or from your shared passion, okay, towards evolving in directions that you didn't necessarily consider before. And then we have the 8 of Cups, which means to emotionally move on from things, pile 3. Okay, so I think too, part of the positive things after this change that are coming, the blessing is that you're going to be able to leave something behind that's been weighing on you emotionally. Okay, so maybe that has been the perception of failure in the past. Maybe that's kind of what you're leaving behind with this 8 of Cups. It can also mean to perhaps it's like one of the interpretations I mentioned is perhaps like a relationship that didn't go so well, or you felt wasn't going well. And then in that case, it's like emotionally leaving behind like the bad things from that relationship. Okay. Especially in conjunction with the 10 of Cups being in the near future position. That's also a great sign for relationships as well. It's like leaving those problems in the past, and now we're back to normalcy. Now we're back to a place of greater nurturing and of greater passion too, with the 5 of Wands, because the Wands cards are fire in tarot, which represents passion and creativity. Okay, so all in all, just a really, really positive shift for you, pile 3. I want to say you almost have the most positive shift of all 3 piles today, towards greater acclaim, towards greater peace and balance, towards being recognized more for who you are and what you've created, and whatever your goal might be that is resonating with this situation for you. So if I had any piece of advice for you, pile 3, just embrace change. Don't be afraid of change in this situation, and don't be afraid of evolving, because that's exactly the key to the door that you want to open towards what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, so embrace evolving and embrace change. And that's the best advice I can give you for this shift. Okay, then all those good blessings will flow afterwards. So that was your reading for today on your next cosmic shift unfolding for you soon. As we always say, I hope it helped you. That's what I care about most, that you liked it, it resonated. If so, the old YouTube spiel, like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Don't have to repeat it too much. You've been on YouTube before, right? And if you choose to do any one of those 3 things, if not all 3, thank you so much. It helps every little bit. And as we say in our tradition, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, pile number 3, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, pile 3.